This meeting is being recorded.
Buonasera a tutti, good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana.
E io sono Caterina. We'd like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners and anyone listening online at khbradio.com. Also, be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook on the Italian Radio Hour. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past episodes.
E io vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo. Grazie per essere con noi anche oggi, mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana.
Well, Viviana, last week we had a wonderful conversation with Anna Harsh. She's the founder and artistic director of the Allegro Dance Company. It's a group that's dedicated to researching, maintaining, and sharing the tradition of Italian folk dance. Tonight, however, we have two guests, and we have two very interesting guests. Our first guest is going to be calling in from Rome, and her name is Sophie Minchilli. Sophie recently published her first book, The Sweetness of Doing Nothing, Live Life the Italian Way with Dolce Far Niente. And in fact, I spent some time with Sophie doing a food tour with her back in 2019, as well as spending a week with her and her mother just recently in Umbria. Our second guest is a Pittsburgh icon. We are honored to have the famous NFL former professional football player, Franco Harris, as our second guest after the break. But prima,
pubblicità. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. Well, welcome back, everyone. It's about time to introduce tonight's first guest, Sophie Minchilli. Sophie is half American from her mom's side and half Italian from her father's side. She was born and raised in Rome, where she lived continuously except for her college years when she moved to London. She's a true Italy lover, and her time away from home made her realize how much her soul and heart still belong to the eternal city. Today, she has her own business where she leads food tours and cooking classes in Rome, Puglia, and Umbria. And she recently published her first book, The Sweetness of Doing Nothing, Live Life the Italian Way with Dolce Far Niente, and is now available on Amazon. Benvenuta, Sophie. Benvenuta.
Grazie. Thank you so much for having me.
We're so excited, from Roman to Roman, finally. So let's talk about this beautiful background that you have, a little bit Italian and a little bit of American. Where are your parents respectively from?
So my mom's originally from St. Louis, Missouri, but she actually moved to Italy when she was 12 years old for a few years. And that's when she first fell in love with Italy. She came back later on after college, and that's when she met my dad, who's Italian. He's from Bari in Puglia, which is the heel of the boot. And they fell in love, had a baby, me, and she's been here, I guess, ever since. So about 35 years.
Wow. So actually, we also share the Pugliese half side of the family. We have so much in common. So how do you think their own different backgrounds has shaped up you growing up? And do you think you take after the most, your mom or your father?
I think both. So I feel very Italian, even though my mom's American. But I think because she's been here so long, she also feels very Italian. And I feel like growing up with an Italian and American parent, it was the Italian parent took everything for granted, like all the beauty, all the traditions. And that's sort of how I grew up. And then after college, I sort of switched to my mom's view of Italy, which was complete awe of everything. So even having my espresso standing at the bar in the morning became beautiful. And Sunday lunches, just all the small things I grew up with suddenly became more beautiful to my eyes.
Mm-hmm. And what neighborhood in Rome do you live in, or you feel that you relate the most to, and why?
I grew up in a neighborhood called Monti, which is near the Colosseum, and I'm currently living here now. And it's great. I've seen it change over years. So thinking back when I was a kid, it was sort of like a small village. It was considered a little dangerous, no tourists. Now it's become gentrified. So there's a lot of tourism. It's the place where nightlife happens, lots of vintage shopping. I also spend a lot of time in Trastevere, which is on the other side of the river, because that's where I mostly lead my food tours. I've always loved the neighborhood, and it's still very Roman feeling, even though it is touristy, but there's still a lot of real life, small shops, artisans. And so I love leading food tours there.
So for a brief period, you actually left Italy after you finished high school. You went to London. How was your experience in London? And did you miss Italy? What did you miss about Italy while you were studying?
I missed it so much. So I was there for 3 years. And I gotta say, like the first year and a half, I was okay. So I was loving London, living in a new country. I'd never moved away from Italy. And then after that first year and a half, I really missed Italy. And again, it was those small things. So I feel like the traditions and the big lunches, the passeggiata in the afternoon, or the Italian summers. And I ended up like flying back to Rome every weekend. It was a little embarrassing because with the low cost flights, it was like taking a bus, you know, if 2 hours, 30 euros, you were back home. So it was nice to be close, but I learned a lot in my time in London, but most importantly, I learned that Italy has my heart and this is where I want to live and work.
So when you came back to Italy, what did you end up doing for a job? Because initially you didn't work with your mom initially. What did you had a series of jobs, I understand?
Yeah, so I came back and I think like most people that age, I was really confused. I had no idea what I wanted to do. All I knew was that I liked food and I liked Italy, but I had no idea what I could do with that information. So I did a bunch of really random jobs, babysitting, waitressing, translation. I was leading pizza classes, I don't know, dog walking, everything I could find. And then my mom came up to me one day and she's like, you know, I've been leading tours for the past couple of years. Do you want to try and do one? I think you would really enjoy it. And I remember looking at her and thinking like, oh no, my mom's gone crazy. This is not a real job. How does she think anyone would ever pay me to show them around Rome and eat pizza? Sorry. And she actually had to force me to try. So I did one and I loved it. So it's been my full-time job now for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect job for me. I love it.
So do you remember some of the spots that you might have taken your guests to?
On the first tour.
On the first tour.
It's like the first performance.
Yeah, your debut as a tour guide.
Well, I took it very easy the first tour. I stayed in the neighborhood where I grew up because that's where I felt more at home. And so I took them to the coffee bar where I've been going every morning for 30 years to have my coffee. So it's like being with my family there. I go in and everyone says hi. They know me. They don't even ask what I want. They already know what I drink. And I took them for a walk around my neighborhood because it still feels like a small little town. So it was nice for them to see that vibe, you know, of everyone saying hi to me and telling me stories of when I was a kid and how the neighborhood changed. We went to the market, the bakery, the small artisans shops, because this is it's a neighborhood known for the artisan work. So like woodworkers and that kind of stuff, jewelers. And they loved it. I couldn't believe they loved it because for me, it was just taking a walk through my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Well, when my husband and I were in Italy in 2019, we did the Testaccio tour with you. Which of your tours your Roman tours, is your favorite? Because you do Testaccio, you do Trastevere, you do around the Campo dei Fiori, you do a pizza tour. Which is your favorite tour?
So my favorite is one that is in 2 neighborhoods. So we start in Campo dei Fiori and end on the other side of the river in Trastevere. And those are 2 neighborhoods I also grew up in because my dad's office is there. My high school was there. All my friends lived there. So I know them like the back of my hand. And to me, that's like Rome. There's so much to see, all these small cobblestoned alleys, amazing food, old-fashioned traditions. That's my favorite one. Campo de Fiori and Trastevere.
So I would assume that these tours last so many hours. How about your tours out of Rome, like Puglia or Umbria? Those are longer, right? And do you, like, as a business, provide also accommodation? Tell us, give us a little flavor of what your Puglia or Umbria tours are like.
Also Sicily. You also do Sicily.
Yeah.
Sicily?
We're adding more and more.
Yeah.
But yeah, the week-long tours, we actually started, the first one we ever did was in Rome. And then we decided Rome had enough tourists. We didn't need to bring more. So we switched to other regions. And the first option that came to mind was Umbria, because we have a home there. And it's a region, it's the lesser known Tuscany of Italy. So now tourists are getting to know it better, but before it was really unknown. And so we did the first one there, and a week-long tour with us is a whole week of eating and drinking, first of all. And then our guests are usually based.
I can attest to that. Yes, it was a lot of food and a lot of wine.
Good wine.
Yes.
Good wine. Very good
we
wine.
feed you well. But yeah, our guests usually are based in a hotel. So for the one in Umbria, it's in the smallest town near our house. And the town is called Todi. And every day we get picked up by a small bus. We're 10 people max usually. And we do activities. And those are usually, they take place in the morning. And we usually have a big lunch. And most of our tours, we leave guests to have the afternoon free to either rest or shop or do some exploring. And depending on how big the lunch is, which usually they're very big, guests also get the free dinner to either go have a glass of wine, or if they want to have another big meal, they can. We don't force feed people too much.
Okay, so we're going to move a little bit into the book, but before we actually get to the book, just a little remark about your Instagram account, because I find it amazing because you're very observant and sensitive to everyday's life and everyday people. And I think that sensitivity also reflects in the way that you describe Italy in your book. So kudos to you. And because you capture elements and values, again, that might be subtle at times, but if you're an Italian, you cannot but smile because those little observations take you home. And that's how I felt as I was going through the pages. I was sometimes, kind of, we'll get to the Vestaglia afterwards, but so nothing, no one would ever capture that in a book, and she did. So and when you go to our summer home or when you get home, that's usually what I do, and that's what I miss the most. A real bathrobe and a Vestaglia. So can you share with our listeners and where did the idea of the book come from?
Well, actually, it's a very strange and different experience because the publishing house actually found me and contacted me. And they told me they're called HarperCollins, and they said, we have an idea for a book.
Small publishing house, right?
Well, it's funny because I remember I got this message on Instagram, and it was HarperCollins, and they said, we have an idea for a book, but all we have is the name. And we think you would be perfect. We would give you complete freedom to write about what you want. Do you want to do it? And I remember going to my mom and being like, Ma, I got this weird message from someone called HarperCollins. I don't know them. They want me to write a book. Should I do it? And she was like, yes, you should. And the great thing was that I had complete freedom. So they wanted me to talk about the way Italians live, basically. And I know that. And so I just thought about my experience growing up here and the things I missed when I wasn't here and what I talk about on my tours to tourists. And that's sort of how the book came. And they also use my pictures. You were talking about my Instagram, which was amazing. It was great to be able to use my photographs.
What is it about the Italian lifestyle that makes makes Americans and other non-Italian foreigners feel so passionate that they want to embrace this lifestyle. What is it about that Italian lifestyle that you can explain to our listeners?
Well, I think so. The book is called The Sweetness of Doing Nothing, which translates to Dolce Far Niente in Italian. And that's a term we often use to refer to the way Italians live, but it doesn't actually mean Italians aren't doing anything. I feel like they've perfected the art of enjoying every single small moment in life and taking things very slow. If you think about it, now it's summer, it's so hot, and these small family shops are getting ready to close for the month of August, which might sound crazy to some people. To us Italians, it's normal, but they worked all year. They want to go to the beach with their family and friends, and so they just shut down their business for a month, and that's okay. They're living life. We only live once. And so I think in certain countries, like when I was living in London or in the US, we are constantly bombarded with this idea that we have to do as many things as possible. We have to have a list and check things off, and that's how we feel fulfilled and useful. And then we're burnt out, and we don't work well, we don't live well, time goes too fast. And in the long run, if we all think about the best memories in life, it's the smaller moments. And so I think what I've tried to portray in my book is that we all need to slow down and really enjoy those small moments. So the coffee in the morning, or having a chat at the dinner table with your family after you're done eating. Small things.
So the book is divided into areas, more than chapters, so to speak. You have an introduction where you share a few things about yourself, your childhood memories, and you really capture the spensieratezza of being a little girl along with your sister Emma. Tell us a little bit about that before we dive into the other chapters. How was your childhood growing up? We can almost picture you.
Well, I understand you were the troublemaker of the two.
Yeah, I was. I really was, but now I'm okay.
Yeah, sort of. Right?
But yeah, it was amazing. I mean, obviously, when I was a kid, I took it all for granted. I just thought it was normal that we spent our summers on a beautiful beach in Puglia, and every weekend driving up to our beautiful house in Umbria, or my mom would leave me to play in the piazza here in Monti with my friends all afternoon while she went to do the food shopping. And much later on, I guess this realization happened after university, where I realized, wow, I actually had a pretty incredible childhood, a very Italian childhood. And thinking back on my childhood, it's the very small things that I remember, of course, because they're the ones that make you happiest in the long run. But I don't know, like the Sundays, like the sound of the church bells on Sundays when I would like want to wake up later, but I would hear the bells and wake up, or being able to have gelato twice a week. And it was such an exciting thing. Sunday lunches with the family, playing in the piazza with my friends. The summers are a big part of my childhood memories. And my sister, spending time with my sister, of course.
So let's talk a little bit about food, because I know food is a major part of your life and your profession now.
kind of important for me and for the country I live in.
You know, when we think about Italy, we think about, number one, we think about the food. You know, it's always, the food is fantastic. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of food and the Italian lifestyle? How it impacts your day?
So I would say that Italians' days and life revolve around food in one way or another. It's all we talk about. It's literally all we talk about. If you could listen to people talk on the street, wherever you are in Italy, I assure you 90% of them are talking about food. What they ate for lunch, what they're going to be eating for dinner, the fresh peaches they saw at the market yesterday, what olive oil they use, and whose mom makes the best lasagna. And it's true, we really do talk about it. And also, it's a social thing. So it's not just a way to sort of feed ourselves and give us energy to keep the day going. I would say most Italians would rather not eat lunch than have to eat a very quick lunch in front of their computer screen. Everything is always very relaxed and social. We meet with friends for a meal usually. It's not like for a walk, but it's usually let's meet for lunch or for dinner or for merenda, which is a snack in the middle of the afternoon.
Yes, even because, I mean, there is not much carrying food around except for your gelato during your passeggiata. And also food is indeed a form of art. And we're not just necessarily talking about certain type of cuisine, but also still in your book, you have pictures on how artichokes are supposed to be clean. And if you walk through the Jewish quarter, it's the form of artistry that the restaurateurs show, during specific season where the artichokes are their best. And it's just mesmerizing. And I'm very jealous of your pizza fiki snack from the other day. That was not fair.
That was interesting. Yes,
I do have a figi tree, but I will be in Italy where they're maturing.
That was
another
so
chapter,
good.
yes,
Yeah,
another
looks
chapter,
really good.
another area that you talk about in the book is family friends, where there is indeed some sort of where family comes with a capital F, so to speak. And I have to say also the friends, and there is still some sort of adoration and respect towards the family. And what I like is that you give room also to the grandparents in nonni, indicating that everyone has still a place in society. Now that the electronic storytellers, babysitters, and game organizers, aka our phones, are a little bit depriving the nonni from their function. And again, beautiful picture. I'm not trying to see because I even marked the page 109 of a grandma playing ball with her grandson, I believe. Can you tell us a little bit, whether it's that shot or just maybe your relationship with your nonni? So here it is for those that might be.
There it is. Right
That's so cute.
Yes, your relationship with your nonni.
So I have the American nonni and the Italian nonni. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see my American nonni as much as my Italian. Nowadays, with technology, I get to see them more. I had, growing up, a very, very close relationship with my nonna. She was in Bari. Unfortunately, she recently passed away. And it was a heartbreak because nonni here, like the nonna is like a second mother. She was everything to me. And growing up with a nonna that close, like she teaches you everything. I mean, she taught me how to cook, but also she was like the mom that I would tell things to. You know, she would always ask me like, "Oh, did you find the boyfriend? Did you kiss?" You know, stuff I wouldn't necessarily talk to my mom about. But nonni here, I mean, you see it just taking a walk around anywhere in Italy, like in the morning, so mid-morning, you'll see so many nonni walking around with their grandchildren because the parents are at work. So they really have an important role. And somebody on a tour asked me, like, what happens to older people in Italy when they can't really care for themselves? And the first answer that came to mind to me was, nothing really. They stay with their family at home. I feel like family here really sticks together till the end. The nonni, they respect everything that they've given to their kids by the kids taking care of them when they're older and they can't take care of themselves. So it's beautiful. And also they really have a social life here. You'll see on my Instagram, for example, I always film these older men in front of a coffee bar playing cards. They're all grandparents. They're all in pensione. They don't work anymore. And but it's beautiful that every day, every morning and every afternoon, they have a lunch break where they go home to nap. They get together, have a coffee or a gelato. They play cards for a couple hours, talk about politics, the news, the weather. And I find it so great that there's such a big social life and big part of society.
Yeah, and it's really wonderful the way you portray that, especially on your Instagram postings. That's to me one of the most enjoyable things to see is the way you respect the importance of older people, and how that respect is present in Italy. Ageism isn't like it is here. So
No, yeah, you'll see people of all ages hanging out, and it is beautiful.
So we are pretty much at the end of our lovely conversation. But before you mention a bar, and obviously that's also something, a must go, Bar Callisto for the best maritozzo in town. And if you want to hear some true Roman or some salty language, get closer to the gentlemen playing cards, because they will storm away if you don't play well or you take too long. They'll storm away, argue, and then come back as if nothing had ever happened. So to conclude, what I feel that in your book, you really talk to us and you give us recommendations like a friend. It's not a list of do's or don'ts, as often happens when people say, talk about Italy, some other countries, but a way of embracing life that focuses on the appreciation of the little things and more mindfulness and probably meaningfulness. So there is nothing really lazy about the Dolce Far Niente. There is just a lot of intention. Very last question, 30 seconds. Where will we catch you next, or what are you working on right now?
So I'm mostly in Rome leading food tours. So I think your best chance is to come to Rome and I'll show you around. And yeah,
and she does a great job. I can tell you, we had a great time and we ate so much food. It was fantastic. So I will give you a personal 5-star recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to meeting you in person then in Rome. Okay.
Thank you. I hope so soon.
Grazie mille, Sophie.
Grazie. Thank you.